Welcome to the channel, welcome to my review of Codex Dark Angels. This is a supplement for 8th edition games of Warhammer 40k. This review is aimed primarily at people who are more familiar with the source material, and I'm going to discuss in some detail the changes between the Index Imperium 1, and what's in this codex. So straight from the bat, Sons of the Lion and Dark Angel successor chapters have "And They Shall Know No Fear," which is reroll morale tests. The Inner Circle rule is still there, so those who have the Inner Circle rule, such as the Deathwing, automatically pass morale tests, and Jink. Now, Jink has improved. Previously, Jink was you got a 5-up invulnerable save against shooting attacks when you advanced, and now it's a 4-up invulnerable save against shooting attacks until the start of your movement phase when you advance. On the surface, it doesn't seem that significant. However, when you remember that Ravenwing Black Knights have those Plasma Talons, which are Assault 2 weapons, 18-inch range Assault 2 weapons. Previously, when you moved forward, there was no point in advancing because it would drop your ballistic skill from a 3-up to a 4-up. When you advance now, it will still drop your ballistic skill from a 3-up to a 4-up, but in return, you're getting a 4-up invulnerable save to shooting rather than just a 5-up invulnerable save to shooting, saving 50% of the wounds that are coming by your way, so long as they're not mortal. So I can see Jink being more of a thing now. Previously, having played against a couple of Dark Angels, people weren't jinking, but now people will be jinking. Remember, this only affects models with the Jink rule, so that's typically the Ravenwing, that's typically speeders and bikes, fast units, all those ones painted black. But being able to move bikes 20 inches and getting a 4-up invulnerable save is not insignificant. It's a nice change, and it was needed. Then we dive to the back of the book and have a look at the special rules that specifically affect you if you bring a detachment that solely consists of Dark Angels or successor models, and these abilities affect all infantry, bikers and dreadnought units other than servitor units. Like I say, you have to have a detachment consisting solely of Dark Angels. You get the Defenders of Humanity rule, which Space Marines and Blood Angels get, which is essentially objective secured, and Grim Resolve is back. So, Grim Resolve, you can never lose more than one model as the result of any single failed morale test. Add that on to Inner Circle. What we've got with Codex Dark Angels all of a sudden is Dark Angels are the Space Marine army that morale does not bother them at all. This is because a portion of their army will have the Inner Circle rule, essentially the Deathwing, and will be fearless, will never have to take morale tests, and the portion of the army that does have to take morale tests can only ever lose one model. And on top of that, Grim Resolve has another rule, which is you can re-roll hit rolls of 1 for this unit whenever it shoots, including when firing Overwatch, so long as it did not move in the movement phase. So stay still, you're re-rolling hits of 1. That's your Devastators in the backfield, staying still, re-rolling hits of 1. Remember, it affects infantry, biker and dreadnoughts. It won't affect your tanks. And also, if you're standing still in the pre-movement phase and you get charged, you're hitting on 6s in Overwatch and you're re-rolling 1s. So you're shooty and you're stubborn. Long story short, static Dark Angels units will be more shooty, and over the course of a 5, 6, 7 turn game, it will come into effect many times. And also Dark Angels units are never going to run away, really. So resilient, tough, shooty, I like it. I think I should point out before we go any further, there were some rumours floating around on the internet beforehand that the Lion was going to turn up in this codex, the Primarch of the Dark Angels, and I can confirm that the Lion definitely is not in this codex. No Lion, I said he wouldn't be here. However, what you do get in the new Dark Angels book, just like in the Blood Angels book, is you get access to all the Primaris models that the Space Marines have. So Aggressors are in here, Inceptors are in here, the Repulsor tank is in here. All the hot new shiny toys are in the book, which is the fluff-wise, narrative-wise, are the most closed off, most secretive, most scheming and manipulative Space Marines in the whole of the Imperium. The one book which they perhaps shouldn't have dropped in the new Primaris Marines, they have dropped them in. It's not like the Dark Angels have got lots and lots of secrets to hide, is it? The fact that half of them joined the Forces of Chaos, the fact that Lionel Johnson was playing both sides, their Primarch was playing both sides during the time of the Horus Heresy, waiting to see which way the wind would blow, to see which side he would join. yeah, apparently they've taken Primaris Space Marines in amongst them with open arms, and you can get all the hot new shiny units here. I did mine the narrative to look for reasons, and it's... What I want to say is there's thin coats, two thin coats in the narrative about why Azrael decided to suddenly let Primaris Marines in their chapter. Long story short, he couldn't really say no, could he? Guilliman Primarch turns up and said, "We're giving you these guys." He can't exactly say no, but it's just interesting because Guilliman must know some stuff about the Dark Angels. Let's face it, last time him and the Lion were chatting to each other on Macragge and through Ruinstorm, they weren't exactly on speaking terms. But yeah, Azrael accepted the Primaris. He couldn't say no. There is a big narrative shift in this book, though. There are some secret and some surprising things have happened on the Rock, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm sure you'll be able to get it from other sources. But if you're a true Dark Angels fan, then you'll want to read the narrative. I feel like with the inclusion of Primaris Marines in there, which personally I really think they shouldn't have been in there, Azrael should have turned around and said, "No, we are our own chapter. We follow our own ways. We refuse these new shiny toys that you give us." And I think Guilliman, being a reasonable sort of chap, would have probably gone, "Okay, fine, you know, if you think you're good enough, soldier, then I'm going." But I think to mollify the fans over the fact that suddenly they've got Primaris Marines in there, they have changed a bit of the narrative. There is some surprises and twists, so it is worth reading. So no big new shiny Primarch model for you guys, I'm sorry. But you do get Hellblasters, and Hellblasters are cool. You also get a number of new units. One of them is the Raven Wing Talonmaster. This is essentially a lieutenant, and he is in a Landspeeder. This guy's 188 points. The reason why he's 188 points is because he comes in a Landspeeder, but the Landspeeder's got a twin assault cannon and a twin heavy bolter, and the guy's got a power sword as well. Remember, he's a character, and it's toughness 6 with 6 wounds, so you can't target him unless he's the closest model. He's a guy dipping around at the back, toughness 6 character, pumping out a lot of shots. Twin assault cannon, 12 shots. Twin heavy bolter, 6 shots. Pumping out a lot of DACA. He's a HQ, and tactical precision. You can re-roll wound rolls of 1 for friendly Dark Angels units within 6 inches of this model. So tie that up with a chaplain or someone like Samuel. Someone like that, suddenly you're re-rolling a hit and re-rolling wound rolls of 1. And also, enemy units do not gain bonuses to their saving throws for being in cover against shooting attacks made by friendly Raven Wing units that are within 6 inches of this model. That rule is called No Escape. So he's a beefer lieutenant. Not only are you re-rolling wound rolls of 1, you're ignoring cover, and he's staying at the back, and he's throwing down a lot of DACA on a movement 16, toughness 6, 6 wound base here. Long story short, we're going to see a lot of these guys floating around on the battlefield. Ballistic skill 3, weapon skill 2, and he's got Jink because he's in the Raven Wing. So 4 up and vulnerable save whenever you move him, whenever you advance him. It's nice. You've also got a couple of unit entries in here for something called a Master or Primaris Master or a Master in Terminator Armor. Essentially, this is a captain. It's just basically the captain in all respects. Master in Gravis Armor. It's a captain in Gravis Armor. Calling them Masters or Masters if you're American. And there are lieutenants and Primaris lieutenants as before. Also included in here, which will be very interesting for you Deathwing fans, are Deathwing Tartarus Terminator Squad and Deathwing Cataphracti Terminator Squad. So different flavors of Deathwing hitting the battlefield as well. Also the Contemptor Dreadnought is in here. We saw these changes in the Blood Angels books, so now you've got some new units which were specifically previously only included for Space Marines. Now you can get them if you're a Dark Angel fan and want to add that flavor to your soup. You also finally have access to the Landspeeder Storm as well, so you can shove 5 scouts in a Landspeeder Storm and shove it up the table. Storms have an 18-inch movement range, so they're very interesting. It's a dedicated transport. And probably because it is a dedicated transport, it doesn't come with a Raven Wing keyword. It doesn't come with Jink either. Maybe that's an oversight. Maybe we're going to see the Landspeeder Storms fact, because I certainly think if there's storms in a Raven Wing list, then they should be Raven Wing. They should have the Jink keyword, but it doesn't. They are there, though. Unlike Blood Angels, you don't get access to the Stormhawk and Storm Talon. You do have the Storm Raven finally, though. So you can bring your Storm Ravens along and add them to your force. The Storm Raven gunship does not come with the Raven Wing keyword, and it doesn't come with Jink either. So your Dark Talons and your Nephilim jet fighters, the two flyers that you had before, of course, they've got Jink and they've got the Raven King Wing keyword, but Storm Raven gunships don't have that. And again, maybe an oversight, maybe just a copy and paste, or maybe that's firmly what they intended. Also missing from this book, you never had them, you still haven't got them, are Centurions and Thunderfire cannons. But that's your toolbox there, your toolbox of toys. You've essentially, when you add up all the total units that you can get in this book, because you've got specific things that only you guys can get, you've actually got more unit choices than your standard Space Marine Codex. Not as many as the Blood Angels. The Blood Angels have the highest number of units available because they have Sanguinary Guard and Deathwing and Deathwing. Those guys in black, forget their name. And the jumpsuits and the Feroso Dreadnoughts and the guys in black Dreadnoughts. So anyway, Blood Angels have a lot more units than standard Space Marines. Dark Angels have a few more units than standard Space Marines because you have the Nephilim fighters and the Dark Talon, but you've also got Raven Wing attack bikes, you've got the Black Knights, you've got the Deathwing Knights. So overall, you've got one or two more unit choices than standard Space Marines. There's a couple of bits that you're missing, which is good because it keeps the flavor of the Dark Angels. It still makes them unique. It means that on the battlefield, you can't exactly get every single thing that's available to all the other chapters. You are First Legion after all. You've got some special toys, but you haven't got a Primarch yet. Okay, 3 pages of stratagems. Let's have a look at the stratagems. And just like in the Blood Angels book and the Space Marine book, about 50% of them, maybe 40% of them are the same as in the Blood Angels and the Space Marine book. Standard Space Marine tactics that you could expect, like Auspex scans, tactical flexibility, armor of contempt, cluster mines, flak missiles. You've got a number of abilities in here that you can get if you're a Space Marine. Only in death does duty end. You know, before a character is removed from the battlefield, they can immediately make another attack or shot as if it was your fight phase or shooting phase. These represent the standard ways of war that Space Marines, no matter the flavor, adopt. However, once you dig through those stratagems, then there's a chunk of stratagems that are specific to the Dark Angels. So let's have a look at some of them now. Okay, 2 or 3 command points, Death Wing Assault. Use this stratagem when a Death Wing unit from your army is set up on the board using the Teleport Strike ability. If the unit contains 5 or fewer models, it could cost 2 command points. If it contains more than 5 models, this will cost you 3 command points when this comes in. So as soon as you set them up, as soon as you deep strike them on the battlefield, that unit can immediately make a shooting attack as if it was your shooting phase. And then this does not prevent it from shooting again in the following shooting phase. So your Deathwing Terminators are teleporting in and they get to shoot twice. They'll shoot at the end of the mutant phase, they'll shoot again in the shooting phase. And let's not forget, they can still possibly charge as well. So it's 2 command points for 5 in a unit, 3 command points for more than 5 in a unit. It's pricey, but it makes the Deathwing hit harder. Never forgive, never forget. It's a bit like Death to the False Emperor. 1 command point, use this stratagem when a Dark Angels unit from your army is chosen to attack in the fight phase. And every time you make a hit roll of 6 for a model, when targeting Heretic Astartes units, they get an extra attack. So it's like Death to the False Emperor. If you're attacking Fallen units, then you get extra attacks on a 4-up. That's if you're using a Deathwing unit for the 4-up against Fallen. But yeah, a 6-up exploding dice against basically Chaos Space Marines. It's situational, but it's nice. The Lion and the Wolf is a very flavoursome little stratagem. Use the stratagem before the battle begins if your army includes any Space Wolf infantry units. Choose 1 Dark Angels infantry model and 1 Space Wolves infantry model in your army and roll a dice for each model. And on a 4-up, the model suffers a mortal wound. So basically, if you choose to ally with Space Wolves, you've got a 50-50 chance of giving a mortal wound to either of one of those models. However, if that model survives Each model that survives then increases its strengths, attacks, weapon skill, and leadership's characteristics by 1. You can only use this stratagem once a battle. So what we've got there is a little narrative between the Space Wolf and a Dark Angel player battering each other before a game begins. If you want to increase their strength, attacks, or weapon skill, or leadership, you can. I can't see it ever being used, but it's there. 1 command point, Hunt for the Fallen. Use the stratagem at the start of the battle. Select an infantry character in your opponent's army. That model is suspected to know the whereabouts of a fallen, but will not give up its secrets easily. Increase the model's attacks characteristics by 1. So 1 command point, pick Guilliman, pick Magnus, pick Mortarion, pick the big nasty HQ in your opponent's army. Any infantry character, so long as they have the infantry and the character keyword. And that guy suddenly has +1 attack. But reroll failed to hit rolls for Dark Angels. All of your Dark Angels. Reroll failed to hit rolls for Dark Angel units that target that unit in the fight phase. In addition, a reroll failed charge rolls for Deathwing and Ravenwing models that declare charges against this model. I see Hunt for the Fallen being the ultimate slay the Warlord thing. Maybe Guilliman or Mortarion weren't exactly the best choices, but if your enemy Warlord is, I don't know, some Eldar Farseer or Imhotep the Stormlord or something like that, an infantry character, you can spend a command point and your whole army rerolls hit rolls in the fight phase against it. It'll help you slay the Warlord. 2 command points, Intractable. Use this stratagem after one of your Dark Angels units has fallen back. They can still shoot. That's pretty good. When you think about Ravenwing bikes suddenly falling back and then shooting again with their plasma talons. But it just says any Dark Angels unit for 2 command points. You can do it with your Deathwing as well. You could do it with a Land Raider. You could fall back with a Land Raider, and for 2 command points, you can still shoot. Intractable. That one will come into effect. Talking about one that will still come into effect, Speed of the Raven. Use this stratagem when one of your Ravenwing units has advanced. That unit can still shoot and charge. So you're talking about advancing up the table with your Ravenwing, getting your 4+ Jink to shooting attack and still shooting and still charging. It's Speed of the Raven, 1 command point. Good. 1 command point, Secret Agenda. Use the stratagem before the battle. If you're playing a mission that uses tactical objectives. Those are the ones with decks, the card decks. For the duration of the battle, keep your tactical objectives secret from your opponent and only reveal tactical objectives when they are achieved. So that's a nice one. You're playing, I don't know, Cleanse and Capture, 3 cards each, and you spend a command point and you keep your cards secret throughout the entire game for 1 command point. Very narrative. I like it. Very, very good. If you are a tactical player, if you really like playing Maelstrom games and you're a Dark Angels player, then I can't see why you wouldn't take Secret Agenda every single game. Another good one, Fortress of Shields. Only 1 command point. Use the stratagem at the start of any fight phase and select a Deathwing unit from your army that contains at least 3 models equipped with Storm Shields. Not everyone has to have a Storm Shield, just 3 of them. And your opponent must subtract 1 from all wound rolls made against that unit until the end of the phase. This happens in the fight phase, remember? It's like the locking shields from 7th edition, only you don't need to touch bases anymore. You just pick a unit that's fighting, and it's -1 for your opponent to wound them so long as 3 of them have Storm Shields. 1 command point. That's going to come into effect quite a bit as well. Okay, unique Dark Angels Warlord traits. Number 1, Fury of the Lion. If your Warlord was charged, if your Warlord was charged or performed a heroic intervention, add 1 to their strength characteristic for the fight phase. So Captain with a Thunder Hammer, going up to strength 10, because it put the strength to 5, times 2, strength 10, with a Power Fist when they charge or was charged. Courage of the First Legion. Friendly Dark Angels units automatically pass morale tests while they're within 12 inches of the Warlord. Now, we've seen these buffs before where in the Space Marine decks, in the Blood Angels decks, where this bubble is only a 6-inch bubble to allow you to auto-pass morale tests. But remember, Dark Angels have Grim Resolve, so they're only losing 1 guy anyway. So how useful will this be? However, it is a 12-inch bubble. So that's a 12-inch range. So that's a 24-inch bubble. That's pretty big. Brilliant Strategist. Once per battle, if your Warlord is on the battlefield, you can reroll a single hit, wound, damage, or saving throw. It doesn't say for your Warlord, it just says if your Warlord is on the battle, you can re-roll a single hit, wound, damage, or saving throw. So it's like having those spare command points, you know, when you spend a command point to re-roll a hit or re-roll a wound. So you got one of them. And in addition, if your army is battlefield, roll a d6 each time you use a stratagem, and on a 5-up you gain a command point. Remember, some stratagems can cost 2 or 3 command points, and you're only going to get 1 command point back again for a 5-up. This is pretty much verbatim a Blood Angels Warlord trait here, but it's an ability that you can have to get your command points back again. A 1 in 3rd chance. You come with a battalion detachment with 6 command points, you should be getting 2 of them back again. It gives you 8 command points. Huntsman. Your Warlord can fire their pistol, assault, rapid fire and grenade weapons at an enemy character even if they're not the closest model. In addition, whenever your Warlord piles in or performs a heroic intervention, they can move towards the closest enemy character instead of the closest enemy model. Your Warlord, essentially, can snipe out characters. It would be, say you've got your Warlord in the backfield, a Primaris model, a lieutenant, lieutenant, or captain, or master, whatever they're called, with a mastercrafted stalker bolt rifle. Some guy that you're going to be keeping in the backfield with a 36-inch range, strength 4, AP -2, 2 damage weapon. Then you're going to be giving him huntsman. The guy staying at the back with the devastators, you're going to be giving him huntsman, so you can just be sniping out characters all game. Number 5, master of maneuver. You can re-roll the dice used to determine how far friendly Dark Angels units advance or charge if they're within 6 inches of your Warlord. Now, just as in other books, named Warlords such as Belial, Samiel, Azrael, they have fixed Warlord traits for them. So Azrael, a brilliant strategist, on a 5-up, he gets command points back. Belial, he's the huntsman, so he can shoot characters even if they're not the closest. But re-rolling a charge within 6 inches of your Warlord, well, Samiel's got that, the master of the hunt, the master of the Raven Wing himself. So not only is he allowing your Raven Wing to re-roll all shooting attacks within 6 inches of him, because that's his rule. He's a captain. He allows Raven Wing to re-roll everything within 6 inches of him. He allows Dark Angel units, other Dark Angels units, to re-roll 1s, but he also allows Raven Wing, for example, or any Dark Angels units to re-roll charges within 6 inches of him. That's a very useful ability. I like it. And Stubborn Tenacity. Roll a dice each time your Warlord loses a wound. Add 1 to the result if your Warlord did not move. And on a 6-up, your Warlord does not lose the wound. Long story short, the good ones there. Brilliant strategist, getting command points back, always handy to have. And Azrael turns out in a lot of Dark Angels lists because of his 4-up invulnerable save shenanigans. And Samiel, with his Master of Maneuver, re-rolling charges and re-rolling to see how far friendly Dark Angel units advance while they're within 6 inches. They're very, very tasty Warlord traits. And yes, Azrael still has that annoying 4-up invulnerable save thing, but it's changed. It's been nerfed a little bit. Previously, the Lion Helm allowed all Dark Angels models, all models, Predators, Land Raiders, whatever, all models within 6 inches of him to have a 4-up invulnerable save. Now his 4-up invulnerable save, 6 inches, only works on Dark Angels Infantry and Dark Angels Biker. That's it, and it says Dark Angels Biker. So if you've got Land Speeders who are part of the Raven Wing, that doesn't count. It certainly doesn't count on your Land Raiders anymore. So 4-up invulnerable save only affects Infantry and Bikers now. To be honest, it's still crazy powerful, but I know Dark Angel players will be annoyed. He still is a supreme tactician, and you still receive an additional command point if he is your Warlord. And he still is a chapter master, so you can re-roll all hit rolls for all Dark Angels within 6 inches of him as well. That was the Warlord traits. Right, on to the relics. There is a page of relics. There is a Mastercrafted Power Sword. It's strength +2. It's a relic blade. Strength +2 -3 AP, but it does D3 damage. And also, every time the bearer fights, it can make an additional attack with this weapon. There is Foe Smiter, which is a magic storm bolter. It's an AP -1 damage to Stormbolter. You're going to be putting that on top of Deathwing if you're bringing Deathwing along, and you can't pick another nice weapon because it's not a very good relic, is it? Shroud of Heroes. Your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls that target the bearer. It doesn't say in the fight phase or shooting phase, it's just -1 to hit that target the bearer. You have the Mace of Redemption, which replaces a Power Maul. It's a +3 mace, -3 AP and D3 damage, but you can re-roll all failed wound rolls of this weapon that target Heretic Astartes units. And then there's the Lion's Roar, which is a combi plasma. And instead of having the combi plasma profile, which is rapid fire 24-inch range for the plasma, it's instead an assault 2 plasma. So you've got the bolt gun version, the 24-inch range rapid fire 1 bolt gun version. And instead of a 24-inch range rapid fire 1 plasma version, you've got an 18-inch range assault 2 plasma version. So a little bit more bang for your buck. And then the last relic of Caliban is the Eye of the Unseen. Enemy units within 3 inches of the bearer must subtract 1 from their leadership characteristic. In addition, enemy characters that start the fight phase within 3 inches of the bearer can only be chosen to fight after all other eligible units have made their attacks, even if they charged or have an ability that would allow them to fight first. So again, another one that you're going to be sticking on your Deathwing when you're charging in there, that -1 to the leadership, and nerfing characters, making sure that you hit them first. Overall, we've got 4 pokey weapons in here, and the Eye of the Unseen and Shroud of Heroes, 2 other buffing type things, both of which, the Eye of the Unseen only 3-inch range, and Shroud of Heroes -1 to hit that target the bearer. Apart from that, we've got some pimped weapons. It's not a great relic list compared to Blood Angels and Space Marines. Blood Angels had that funky standard. Space Marines had that funky standard as well. The standard, the Emperor Ascendant or something, I forget what it's called, which goes on Ancients. A weak relic selection compared to the other Space Marine books is what I want to say. You're going to pick 1 or 2 of them, and that's it. But you take what you get, right? They're free. One of the relics is free. You might as well take it. Right, Interomancy Discipline, the psychic disciplines. Okay, Mindworm, Aversion, and Engulfing Fear are still here, and they are unchanged. So Mindworm, you do a mortal wound, you make them fight last. Aversion, you pick an enemy unit within 24 inches, and it's -1 for them to hit. That's probably the best one, making Space Marine mech equivalent units hitting on 4, and Tau and Guard hitting on 5s, and then Engulfing Fear, which is the the leadership test thing, which no one ever picked. That's the one when you roll 2 dice and pick the lowest, discard the lowest when taking morale tests. But you've got 3 more: Righteous Repugnance, Mind Wipe, and Trephination. So Righteous Repugnance has a warp charge value of 7, and pick a friendly Dark Angels units within 12. Reroll all failed hit and wound rolls made for the unit's melee weapons until the start of your next psychic phase. So Chaplains allow you to reroll a hit, right? Righteous Repugnance for Warp Charge 7 allows you to reroll a hit and reroll a wound. That is very good. Trephination, Warp Charge value of 7. Roll 2d6. Add 2 to the total if the psychic test was more than 10. The closest visible enemy unit within 8 inches of the psychic suffers a mortal wound for each point that the total exceeds their highest leadership characteristics. So you're looking at beating leaderships. Leaderships are typically 8 for a mech equivalent, sometimes lower for demons, sometimes higher for vehicles. But you can get up to 14, 2d6, if the result is higher than 10. So if you roll boxcars, you add 2 to that, you get up to 14. And you'll be suffering mortal wounds for every one that it beats their leadership by. That's a nice way of doing mortal wounds, maybe. Mind Wipe, warp charge value of 7 as well. So Mindworm, Aversion, and Engulfing Fear, warp charge value of 6. These 3 new ones, warp charge value of 7. Choose an enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker that is visible to him. Each player then rolls a d6 and adds their model's leadership characteristic to the result. And if your opponent scores higher, or if the scores are a draw, nothing happens. If your score is higher, the enemy's model reduces its leadership, ballistic, and weapon skill characteristics by 1 for the rest of the battle. E.g., a ballistic skill of 3 up is reduced to a 4 up. And that is leadership, ballistic, and weapon skill. Now, there's nothing in here about it stacking, and I can't see any reason why it couldn't. I can't see any reason why, reading the wording, you couldn't do it in one phase, pass a warp charge value of 7, roll off with your opponent, and if you beat them, then they're losing their leadership, ballistic skill, and weapon skill. And then in the next turn, doing it again on an enemy model and making them drop their leadership, ballistic, and weapon skill again. And potentially in a third turn, if they're still within 18 inches, doing it again. There's nothing in here to say it doesn't stack. You do it in a turn. It happens for the rest of the battle. You could do it again and again and again. Okay, so that's their new goodness. Jumping into the points values, all the new points values from chapter approved are in this book. So intercessors were previously 20 points. Intercessors are now down to 18 points. Inceptors are down to whatever they were in the chapter approved book, down to 25 points. And all the ranged weapons are the points cost they are in the chapter approved book. As for the named characters, they've stayed the same, except for Asmodai, who's gone down from 145 to 130, and Ezekiel, who's gone down to 135. The other named characters are the same points cost. But overall, apart from the changes listed in chapter approved on the points, there aren't very many points changes in this book. Deathwing Knights are still the same. Ravenwing Black Knights, however, have gone down 4 points. The Fortress Redemption isn't in it. Interrogator Chaplain and Terminator Armor -3. Interrogator Chaplain with Jump Pack -2. Ravenwing Attack Bike Squads -10. And Ravenwing Bike Squads -7. The Dark Talon has gone down -40. The Nephilim Jet Fighter is the same, but the Ravenwing Dark Talon's down -40. That's the biggest drop. And Ravenwing Land Speed is down 15. So everything down that I can see, nothing going up. Now, as for changes to the data sheets, going back into the book and looking at the data sheets, we've already discussed some of the changes with Azrael, but I can't see any changes to Belial or Samael other than the new Warlord traits that they have available to them, or that they automatically have to take now. I also can't see any changes as Asmodai or Ezekiel. I should also mention as well that the Unforgiven rule that no one ever used, which they could re-roll hit rolls or something in the fight phase, against fallen units, that's gone. The Unforgiven keyword no longer exists. Deathwing Terminators and Deathwing Knights can now combat squad if you've got a unit of 10 of them. And if you bring a Watcher in the Dark, it says that you've got to split the Watcher off into one or the other unit. Watcher in the Dark still costs 5 points. Denies one use only, denies any psychic power on a 3-up that targets the unit. So yeah, if you combat squad, the Watcher's got to go with either the one unit of Knights or one unit of Deathwing Terminators. And the new Cataphracti and Tartarus Terminators can also combat squad, but they can't take Watchers in the Dark, which is strange. Of course, Ravenwing Bike Squads could already combat squad, that's still in there. The Ravenwing Dark Shroud, still 128 points. Still got Icon of Old Caliban. Any friendly Dark Angels units within 6 inches of them, it's -1 to shooting attacks for your opponent. So your opponent shoots a stuff, there's a Ravenwing Dark Shroud nearby, -1 to hit friendly units that are within 6 inches of that. No real changes there with the Ravenwing Black Knights or them. The one thing to point out again is that all these Ravenwing units have Jink, so that's a 4-up invulnerable save, and that Dark Shroud is going to be advancing all the time, getting his 4-up invulnerable save, no doubt. Advancing in circles and ending up where they started, but that's a thing, you can do that. But the main thing to pop out, because there's not a lot of changes, the main thing to pops out when I look through here are things like the Hunter, the Stalker, the Incessors, the Reavers, the Redemptor Dreadnought. You know, it's all the new toys that you can play with. Let's have a look at the flyers at the end. They appear to be unchanged. Rift Cannon, still heavy D3, strength 10, -3 AP, 3 damage. Stasis Bomb, still once per game. Again, these models, though, Ravenwing Dark Talons, Nephilim Jetfighters, have their 4-up Jink when they advance, rather than the 5-up invulnerable save. That's it. Lots of new toys. A big toolbox for Dark Angels to play with. There are some very interesting stratagems in there. Relics, not so much. With the points drops across the board, it's going to be cheaper for you to field your Dark Angel stuff. But if I had to toss a coin in between this one and the Blood Angels one, I think the Blood Angels book is slightly better. That's just my overall opinion. And I'm sure there is a couple of changes in here, a couple of points or rules changes that I've missed. Maybe an increased toughness here or an increased wound there that I've missed. I mean, Blood Angels can do some really crazy things now, but let's not forget, having a 4-up Jink, 4-up invulnerable save for Jinking means that Ravenwing Black Knights are definitely back. Having the ability never to take morale because you've got the inner circle, or only ever losing one model in the leadership phase, means that the Dark Angels are going to be the codex that doesn't fear leadership at all. These two things in themselves are not to be underestimated, and they have got some nice spanky psychic powers in here as well. It is a very strong book. It's just that Blood Angels can do some crazy things when they charge, but it's still a very strong book, and having all the new toys, having all the new unit options for you as well is good. And they finally, right at the back of the book, answer the question exactly where the line is. For a long time, we've thought, we've known, we've rumoured, there's no concrete evidence, but they come out and spell it. They spell it out to you exactly where he is and what's going on. So the narrative in here is interesting. The book is interesting. That's very political, isn't it? It is what it is. The Dark Angels have accepted the Primaris Marines and in amongst their ranks because probably they couldn't say no. They're certainly not in the inner circle. There's no Primaris Marines in the inner circle. Just as none of the Primaris Marines in the Blood Angels have the Black Rage. They're still hot and shiny and new. The Dark Angels book is a solid book. There are multiple ways that you can field this. Green Wing is viable. Remember, if you stand still, you're re-rolling hit rolls of 1 with Grim Resolve. Raven Wing is definitely viable because you're jinking on a 4-up, and Samiel is allowing you to re-roll charges now. Deathwing with their shields locking together and -1 to wound them. Deathwing were always good, and they are still good. So there's the three flavors of Dark Angels in here have not been nerfed by this codex. They have been helped by this codex. And you have got Storm Raven finally. Why it hasn't got the Raven keyword and Jink, I don't know. But it's here. You've got it. You've got some stuff that you didn't have before. So I imagine most Dark Angels players will be very, very pleased. And they'll be able to see some of the combinations and some of the changes that I missed and make these codexes sing. That's it for my review. I'm going to shut up now. Thank you very much to Games Workshop for sending me this codex in advance. It is available on Saturday, the 16th of December. It's going to be the last codex they released this year. The next one is going to be Codex Demons, so that's going to be some interesting. We're seeing some leaks online, some possible new demons coming out. So thank you for Games Workshop allowing me to review this and get the knowledge out there so all of you guys can hear it 1 week in advance. Thank you for all my patrons for supporting me. We've been having some very interesting chats in the Discord chat room recently. I do like it. And thanks everyone else for listening. Happy wargaming.